The ground-penetrating radar struck something solid, 3.35 meters deep. It wasn't bedrock, nor a pipe, but a hidden room, complete with reinforced concrete walls, ventilation shafts, and a door. Its freshly oiled hinges opened directly beneath the private wine cellar of a sitting federal district judge. Special Agent Dar Okonkwo pulled off her headset, speaking 3 words into her radio. "We've got it." But what they discovered on the other side of that door didn't just conclude a 14-month investigation. It fundamentally rewrote everything they thought they knew about who was protecting the Sinaloa cartel within southeast Texas. This pivotal moment occurred at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. To truly grasp how they arrived at this point, we must rewind 14 months to the night a routine traffic stop inadvertently cracked open the most sophisticated judicial corruption case in Texas history. Welcome to Strategic Horizon, uncovering the dark secrets of a vast criminal enterprise embedded within the justice system. The encrypted files recovered from that initial ICE intercept contained a single folder labeled Blueprint. What was inside would paralyze federal command for 3 days, revealing a shocking truth. One of the seized burner phones belonged to someone with a federal government email address. Who was it? And the convoy that night had been tipped off a mere 8 minutes before agents made their move. Someone within the operation had talked, and the mole hunt was about to begin. What federal agents uncovered in the first 10 minutes of their investigation will astound you, because nothing about this story unfolds as you might expect. At 4:17 a.m., 6 locations were simultaneously targeted. FBI breach teams moved like shadows through the pre-dawn Houston fog. Flashbangs detonated, doors splintered, and agents in full tactical gear poured into 6 target sites across Harris County and the Gulf Coast corridor. At a warehouse complex near Pasadena, DIA tactical units discovered a distribution hub cleverly disguised as a cold storage facility. Behind shelving units stacked floor to ceiling, they found 2.8 tons of cocaine, 1.1 million fentanyl pills, 14 kilograms of black tar heroin, and enough methamphetamine to supply Houston for 6 months. They also seized 47 military-grade assault rifles, 12 RPGs, and body armor. One detail, however, stopped agents cold. The body armor was stitched with Houston Police Department markings. At a luxury estate in Sugar Land, cartel logistics coordinators were already burning documents in a fire pit when ICE strike teams breached the perimeter. 3 men bolted for a vehicle. 2 were apprehended before reaching the gate, while the 3rd was taken down before making it to the driveway. In a converted auto shop off Highway 90, agents found something no one on the task force had been briefed for: a server rack with military-grade encryption and a hardwired connection running to an address not listed on any raid manifest. When analysts pulled the first file, they uncovered real, current Border Patrol shift schedules, color-coded by vulnerability window. But what else lay hidden on those encrypted drives? That's when the investigation transcended a mere drug bust and transformed into something far more profound. 6 hours later, analysts at the FBI Cyber Command Unit's temporary field office in downtown Houston worked in shifts. The encryption on those servers wasn't cartel-built, it was government-grade, the kind used by federal contractors. It took 3 hours just to crack the outer layer. When the first analyst saw what loaded onto her screen, she physically recoiled from her desk and called her supervisor without saying a word, simply holding up the monitor. What they were looking at was an intricate financial architecture: 14 shell companies operating through fake construction firms, a restaurant chain with locations across Southeast Texas, and 2 charitable foundations. All of it funneled money in one direction. Operation Iron Veil, as the task force now called it, had just found its backbone. The money trail led from Sinaloa distribution cells to shell invoicing companies, then to what appeared to be legal consulting fees deposited into a private trust account. That trust account had one authorized signatory, a name that silenced the room: the Honorable Isabella Renee Mercer, a federal district judge, 15 years on the bench, appointed, confirmed, and trusted. In 22 years of federal law enforcement, Senior Agent Marcus Telles said he had never seen a sitting judge's name on a cartel payment ledger. His hands were shaking as he typed the confirmation requests to Washington. They had found their mole. But here was the question no one was asking yet. Judge Mercer wasn't the architect. The blueprint file made that clear. She was a node, a critical one, but someone above her had designed this system. Someone with military clearance, someone whose name wasn't in the financial records because they were never paid in cash. Pause for a second and consider who possesses the authority to operate above a federal judge. The answer will emerge in just a moment. At 5:23 a.m. at the Joint Task Force Command Center in the Houston Federal Building, the digital map on the main screen displayed 43 pulsing red markers across Harris, Fort Bend, Brazoria, Galveston, and Jefferson counties. 1,200 federal agents, 60 SWAT teams, 18 Black Hawk helicopters, DIA tactical units, ICE strike teams, and along the Gulf Coast, 2 U.S. Navy patrol vessels running maritime interdiction on Sinaloa shipping routes. The mission now had a new name and a new scope. A desert compound outside Rosenberg, a methamphetamine superlab producing 400 kilograms weekly, was breached and destroyed. A luxury estate in the Woodlands yielded 3 senior cartel logistics commanders and a safe containing $9 million in cash. A border tunnel system discovered beneath an industrial property in Laredo, complete with rail tracks, lighting, and a ventilation system that had taken years to build, was collapsed and sealed. A human trafficking transit house in Galveston was hit at dawn, resulting in 47 victims recovered. A migrant smuggling convoy on I-10 was intercepted with 12 traffickers and 31 people packed into a trailer with no ventilation and temperatures exceeding 32 degrees Celsius. By noon, the scoreboard read 8. 4 tons of narcotics seized, $67 million in cash and assets frozen, 340 arrests, 89 firearms, and 14 armored vehicles. From inside one of the cartel arrest vans, a logistics coordinator known only as Trace looked through the mesh window at the federal building and quietly said to no one, "You only got the bottom floor." No one laughed because the analysts back at the field office had just cracked the final server layer, and what loaded onto that screen made the previous 14 months look like an appetizer. The operation had been a success. 340 arrests, 8.4 tons seized, justice was served, the network was dismantled. Or so they thought. The final file in the blueprint folder wasn't financial records, it was a roster. 23 Houston area police officers, 7 Border Patrol agents, 4 sitting judges, and 11 state legislators, all receiving monthly payments disguised as legal consulting contracts routed through the same shell architecture. Border Patrol agents had been logging false patrol route data, creating invisible corridors during Sinaloa convoy windows. Judges had been dismissing cartel-linked cases at the motion stage before evidence could even be presented. Legislators had quietly killed 3 asset seizure reform bills in committee over 4 years. A deputy watched his sergeant being escorted out of the precinct in handcuffs. A court clerk who had processed hundreds of Judge Mercer's sealed orders sat in an FBI interview room and cried for 20 minutes before she could speak. An honest Border Patrol supervisor who had filed 3 internal complaints, all buried, stood outside the command center and said nothing, just watched. This wasn't a few bad apples. This was a parallel system, a second infrastructure that answered to the Sinaloa cartel, not the Constitution. Then, the silent partner's identity came through. Not a politician, not another judge, but a recently retired district attorney regional director named Gordon Harwell Pace. He was the man who had personally signed off on the federal contractor credentials used to build the server encryption. The man whose access codes were still active in 3 government databases. The man who had spent 11 years in a position that allowed him to see every major interdiction plan before it launched. He was arrested at a Scottsdale golf resort at 2:14 p.m. He didn't say a word, but here is what Pace had already set in motion before his arrest. Analysts found it on a cloud partition linked to a device registered in his wife's name. 3 other metropolitan corridors, Dallas, San Antonio, New Orleans, each had their own version of the blueprint. The same shell company architecture, the same judicial access strategy, the same Border Patrol integration model, all already operational, already moving product, already protected. They didn't just infiltrate the system, they franchised it. And dismantling Houston had just revealed how many more cities were already running the same playbook. In Harris County last year, 2,400 people died of drug overdoses. 61% involved fentanyl traced to this exact distribution network. 89 trafficking survivors were recovered across the operation's raid sites, but investigators believe more than 200 remain missing. One mother, whose 23-year-old son died from a single fentanyl pill he believed was a painkiller, shared her grief. He didn't know what he was taking. Nobody told him what was in it. Nobody stopped it from getting to him. One trafficking survivor, recovered from the Galveston Transit House, had been held for 11 days. She asked agents one question when she was brought outside. She asked if she was actually free. This is not just a crime story. It is a blueprint. It happened here. It is happening elsewhere. And power doesn't always need violence. Sometimes it just needs silence, a judicial signature, and someone willing to look the other way. Gordon Harwell Pace asked for a deal on day 2. What he offered federal prosecutors in exchange for immunity is a story we are still working on.